All right, here we go. It's gonna be a short seafood stock video on how I make my seafood stock. I'll be posting a video soon of the gumbo I made, and this seafood stock is the base for my gumbo instead of using chicken broth and things like that other people do. So the first part of this video, what you see me doing is cracking this crab open. One of the good habits I have is saving my shells for my shrimp, saving the shells from the crab, lobster, any type of seafood, things of that nature. It's things that you can save, put in the freezer, and it comes in handy when it's time to make your stock. So here what you're looking at is a crab shell, some peppercorn, salt and pepper mix, a bag full of shrimp shells, green onions, garlic, red onion, as well as bell pepper chopped up. Now my pan, you can use basic vegetable oil, but I typically, you'll see I'll flash it later, I have some garlic basil vegetable oil. So the first thing you want to do when you make your seafood stock to help grab the flavor, hit it with some basic vegetable oil, drop your bell peppers in there. They're typically going to be your hardest solid vegetable. On top of that, you'll see I'll turn around, and that's when I put my red onions in. I mix everything up. Go ahead and get the vegetable oil on there. You don't want anything to burn. If you get the burnt taste in your pan, you're gonna have to start over because now your whole stock is gonna taste burnt. All right, at this point, you see I'm dropping bay leaves in there. Bay leaves, I chopped up the scallions, as some people say, or green onions. But when it comes to this, at the very end, you're gonna end up draining this off. So you don't wanna mince everything up super fine because you wanna just actually take the juice off. So as you saw right there, I just flashed a picture of what my garlic basil vegetable or cooking oil looks like. Now that my vegetables are starting to soften up, and just to give you a heads up, this is over medium heat. I'm starting to drop my crab shells in there and the shrimp shells. The crab shells and the shrimp shells, whatever seafood that you save the shells from, this is what's going to give you your seafood stock, your flavor. This is the other option versus using chicken broth and all the other broths they sell in the store. As you know, they don't sell a seafood broth. In the process of making this, what you're going to see I'm going to do, I'm going to flash. I just got done dropping my seasoning as far as like kosher salt, peppercorn, and right there what you just saw me sprinkle is about a half cup of E&J Brandy. I typically use a brandy or a whiskey and use a half a cup when you do this. But the thing with when you use the alcohol, and you can use like your sherry wines and things like that, you want to burn the alcohol taste off. So when I first started doing this, you'll see that everything's mixed in, but I'm still sauteing it like that so that I can burn the alcohol off before adding the water so that I can actually just get the flavor. There's a moment where you're going to see me do 2 scoops. The 2 scoops, you're going to want to use like a tablespoon, grab 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. This is going to help for the thickness as well as giving it color and flavor when it comes down to making your broth. In just a second, you'll see in the process of this broth, even though it's a seafood broth, I use about a half cup of chicken broth. For me, it's all flavor profile. Once again, this is going to a gumbo that I'm making, and my gumbo will have chicken as well as seafood. When it comes to making this seafood stock, if you're making just a seafood dish or something of that nature, you probably want to avoid the chicken broth. But my final outcome of this situation is going to involve chicken as well as seafood. So at this point, what you'll see I've done is I've added enough water, just enough to cover about 80% of my ingredients. And at that point, what you want to do is bring that to a boil. Bring it to a boil, and you're going to want to cover it and simmer it. At this point where it simmers, you're going to simmer it for an hour and a half to 2 hours. I would say every roughly 20 to 30 minutes, I go in and I stir everything up, mix my flavors in. If you want, as well as bay leaves, if you have fresh thyme is another good ingredient to add to this. A trick to the seafood stock is if you have vegetables that are running out, you can go ahead and grab those vegetables, garlic, onions, everything, and just go ahead and add it to this for flavor. And at the very end, what you see me doing now is going ahead. I have a pot and a strainer, and now I'm starting to strain the vegetables and the seafood so that I can just get the juice. Now, in the process of straining, what you might want to do is set your solids to the side, because after you strain, you'd be surprised how much juice you can still get out of those crab shells and seafood towards the end of this stock. But like I said, I still got a pot of gumbo to make. So do me a favor, if you have to watch the video again, just don't bother me.